We're live. Good morning, everybody. Sorry about being a little bit late getting started. We had a little bit of trouble getting the computer going. We did figure out which app is giving us a problem. Pain in the behind, we got two apps to go with our Canon camera. One is for doing this, for videoing, and the other one is we need for editing. But they're giving us a conflict when we try to have them both going at the same time or installed on a computer at the same time. So we remove that app again. We'll have to put it back on when we get ready to edit this video. But anyway, this is Hank I've got out today. Figured I'd move him around, give him a little bit of exercise while we talk. I just got back about 2:30 this morning from Boston, from my clinic up in Massachusetts. So I'm working on about 3 hours of sleep. So if I seem a little bit out of it, that's it. Hank is the cow horse that I show working cow horse on. And I still walk him in the same circles when I first get on and start warming up. I do everybody else. I want to thank everybody for joining me this morning. If you would put in the comments where you're watching from. Always interesting to see people from all over the country and all over the world watching the videos. I appreciate you joining in. So as I'm walking him around, I did a couple of left circles, a couple of right circles. This is the horse that I'm campaigning for the NRCHA World Show in February, I think that is, in February. Now I worked a couple of right circles, walked a couple of right circles. Now let's just walk a couple of circles. I figured we'd talk about him and what I'm doing with him to prepare him for that show. We have another big show coming up in August. We'll be showing in West Monroe, Louisiana in August. And I figured we'd talk about that. And if you got any other questions, put them in the comments and we'll have a good conversation today. Woody, if you didn't see the videos of him, he colicked week before last. He's all okay. He went to LSU. They basically just sedated him and observed him, gave him some muscle relaxers and observed him. He's all fine. He's back, and he'll go back into light work today and then gradually get him back into a regular work routine. We'll start him light and work back into it. I have the bit I have on him is my chicken choker. I do this for a lot of his schooling. He tends to get heavy on his front end, and that helps to lift his shoulders and lift his front end. If any of you watching was at the clinic in Massachusetts, thanks for coming. Turned out to be a really, really good clinic, really good turnout. And it looks like I'm going to do another one in October. And that one might already be full. If you're interested in doing that one, you need to get in touch with Lisa pretty quick. I think it's either full or close to full. So I'm just walking him around, just kind of on a pretty loose rein, just kind of getting some forward. He is, I believe, 11 years old. So I try to just walk him out a little bit when I first get started on a pretty loose rein, and then I'll start bridling him up a little bit more. I'm not doing anything to make him put his head there. That's just where his head is comfortable. You'll see different things that we do. His head will be in different positions. And that is basically what is comfortable for him and is correct for him to use his body for whatever maneuver I'm asking for. Different things it'll be low like this. Some things it'll be high. I'm not big on trying to make a horse carry their head a certain height, high or low. I want them to break at the pole and be soft, but how high or low it is, I don't really care. It's the body that I really care about. All right, what's the question?
I have a 1-year-old filly, and she is very pushy and likes to
You had a horse in the barn. Got a 1-year-old filly, very pushy, and what?
like to swing her hind quarter to you and what's the quickest way to stop?
Okay, 1-year-old filly likes to swing her hindquarters towards you. What's the best way to stop it? You need to do some groundwork, some lunging. Basically, she is trying to tell you that she is above you in the pecking order. 1 year old, she's starting her 1 year old, she's starting to kind of establish herself in that pecking order, and that's what's happening right there. She's trying to establish that she's above you in the pecking order. I would do some groundwork. Just give her something to do. She made a couple steps like that. Give her something to do. And the other part of that is pay attention to all of how you're interacting with that horse. Is she pinning her ears when you dump feed? If she is, make her give you nice ears before you dump her feed. How is she leading? Is she leading good? If she's not leading good, correct it. Teach her how to lead correctly. I bet there's more going on than just turning her butt to you. I bet there's some other places where she's kind of testing her boundaries a little bit. So pay attention to that and work all those little pieces. That's something I talk about a good bit. If you pay attention to the little things, like pinning their ears when you're dumping feed, not leading really good, and if you pay attention to those and correct those little things, then you usually don't ever have the big things like turning her butt to you. And if you don't correct that, she's going to start kicking at you. So it's pretty important that you get started on that before she becomes a problem. Okay.
She said, she fought alive. My Ocean Springs grandchildren come to see me in physical sessions this weekend. Now I have watched you from England, Ireland, and Dubai.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yes,
So she has watched me from England, Ireland, and Dubai, and have grandkids in Ocean Springs, which is the city that I live in. That's pretty interesting. That's neat. And I know I have quite a few viewers all over the world, and it's really neat to see that. And
the one with the 1-year-old filly said you were absolutely right.
yeah, the lady with the 1-year-old filly says, "Oh, the feels like you might be off a little bit. I'll move him around a little bit and see what happens." Says that I'm right with the 1-year-old filly. There are lots of little things. So yeah, just work on the little things, and then you end up not having any big things to work on. So Hank is, I don't know how to say it, sloppy with how he uses his body when he's turned out. He is, when he rolls, he bangs his feet together really hard, like when he rolls over from one side to the other. And it's kind of, he's just sloppy with how he uses his body. So when I get him out on days like this, and he seems just a little bit not quite right. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I can feel it's just not as smooth moving as he usually is. Usually try to work it out first. He gets little bruises and stuff and strains pretty regular. just from being sloppy about how he uses his body. He when he lays down and rolls, then he rolls over to the other side. When he does that, he bangs both his front and his back feet together really hard. So he has bruises on his hooves pretty regular, and every once in a while one of them will abscess. He feels like he wants to do something though. His ears are alert. He's not resistant to anything I'm asking him to do with my hands or my legs. Okay, go into the psychology of starting off with the circles and getting their mind on the rider and not their buddies and what's on the outside. That's a good question. And different trainers have different things that they do. I know one trainer that he'll get on and he'll back them up. That works fine with more advanced horses, but I have a lot of horses that here that don't back good when they first come. So I have to have something else. So basically the psychology of that is I'm giving the horse something to do. It really doesn't matter exactly what you give the horse to do, but when you first get in the saddle, you need to give the horse something to do. And by giving the horse something to do, it's not just, I see a lot of people that'll sit down in the saddle and a loose rein, they're letting the horse walk off, and they're situating themselves, they're pulling their pants leg down, they're doing whatever, and the horse is just walking off. And the horse is controlling everything at that point. The horse is controlling speed and direction. And even if it's a good broke horse, you're still opening yourself up to that horse is not being given any instruction. He's not being told, let's go left, let's go right. You're allowing him to make all those decisions on his own. And by setting that precedence, when you're trail riding or doing pretty much anything and that horse sees something that's not familiar with, then you've already set the precedence of you're going to just kind of throw him away and let him figure things out. You're not going to be the leader and help him. So by me getting in the saddle and immediately going into circles, I mean, they always say the most dangerous thing you can do is get on a horse. Second most dangerous thing you can do is get off a horse. So by me immediately going into the circles, I am telling him, you're okay. Listen to me. I'm going to control speed. I'm going to control direction. I'm going to take care of you. And together we can handle anything that pops up, any issues. So that's the psychology of that. That's the mental side of it. On the physical side of it, I can tell if the horse is stiffer or less stiff than it normally is. Like him, I could tell he was kind of not quite walking even in the front end. And so physically, that gives me a good point to figure out if there is a physical problem. It could be a situation where, let's say, there's a sore on the horse's back. Maybe he got bit or kicked or rolled over in an ant bed or something like that, and you missed it when you were saddling. You saddled, you get in the saddle, and you sit down. All of a sudden, it hurts. Well, you just let him go off and him making all the decisions. You don't know how he is going to react to that pain under the saddle if you missed it when you were saddling. So if I'm going off and I'm walking the circles, it might hurt whatever issue is going on under the saddle, but I am in a situation where I'm still the leader and it's less likely that he would have a big violent reaction. So it's mental and it's physical, and it's really important that you do something. Every trainer that I know of, as soon as they go to walk off, they do something to establish their leadership with the horse. And that's something that a lot of non-pro and beginner riders are missing. So that's one of the things that everybody needs to, when you get in the saddle, establish that, okay, I'm steering, I'm driving, and I'm going to take care of you. Okay. Okay. 4 years old, just bought a paint horse with a month or two of riding. You're beginner riders and wondering if you should start riding her immediately or really get the groundwork really good. So the first thing I want to address is a 4-year-old horse with only a month or two under saddle and being beginner riders. There's a big potential for some issues there. So the first thing I suggest is you get somebody to help you. That situation, I'm not going to say it always turns out bad, but it more than often is not good. So as far as whether you should ride or focus on groundwork, you need to be doing both. You need to be riding to not lose the first 60 days that when the horse was started, but you also need to be doing the groundwork to make all the groundwork good. If the horse just had 60 days of starting, your groundwork shouldn't be too bad. It should be pretty decent. So if the horse has had 60 days of riding and you're having some groundwork issues, there quite possibly is some other holes in the training, because groundwork should be pretty good after 60 days of riding. So really my recommendation is get somebody to help you. That's not a situation that I would suggest you be in. Any other questions right now? So I'm gonna trot him around. Let's see what he does. See if he's stiff. See if he walks it out. Let's see, or trots it out. It feels a lot better than it did when I first got on. As I'm trotting him around, see, I kind of got a hold of his face. A lot of people think that Western riders, rein cow horse riders, always ride on a really loose rein. And we generally do ride on a fairly loose rein, but need to be able to get that horse's face in, ask him to collect, get his body where he needs to be, and then get back soft again. Right now, I've talked about keeping a horse in maintenance versus training. Right now, Hank is more in maintenance than training. So I want to keep his muscles built up. So we do a pretty good bit of trotting bridled up like this to get his muscles, to keep his muscles where they need to be. And if I was to trot him around on a looser rein, let's trot. First, Hank don't like being trotted on a loose rein. He don't really like working on a too loose of a rein. But his body is hollowed out right there. He's not using his body as good. Shoulders are down. So I'm going to gather my reins up. A little bit of rein, a little bit of leg. Ask him to round his body, use the body a little better. Did you say something? I use a 3-piece bit. This is a Kelly Carey chicken choker. You can Google that. It's a solid mouthpiece with a pretty tall port. And I've got videos talking about different bits and what I use them for. Each bit has a purpose. Since he has a tendency to hollow his back out, That's why I go with a taller port. So generally, as a general rule, a horse that is kind of bendy, you put them in a solid mouthpiece bit. A horse that's pretty stiff, then you're going to put them in a bit with more joints. A bit with plenty of joints encourages bendiness. A bit with no joints, like what I have on Hank, encourages straightness. I can still point his nose, but basically I want his neck, shoulders forward, to be pretty straight. And I'll control his hip, I'll control his body with my legs. Yeah, like Raven was riding in her pajamas. I couldn't stay on a horse if I rode in that kind of pants. What kind of pants were those, Raven? They look, they were plaid, weren't they? He's starting to feel pretty good trotting around now. Asking her bridle up. Get soft. So, what'd you say? Okay. So basically, somebody wants me to talk about the difference between training riding and maintenance riding. Basically, when you have a horse in training, you're teaching a horse to do an event. You're working on teaching the maneuvers for that event. In the process of teaching the maneuvers, you're getting the horse fit. You're building him up physically. You're building up his wind. So that's training. At some point, your horse is going to learn the job that you're asking him to do. And he is going to get to the point where he's doing that job to the best of his ability. He cannot do it any better. So at that point, you can't keep training on the maneuvers. You can't keep drilling those. Then you're just going to teach the horse to resent the job, get sour. Just about probably 90% of the horses that I see that are sour on about their job, that's what it was caused from not switching from training to maintenance. So what does maintenance look like? Maintenance looks a lot like this with him. Trotting him around, bending his body around, asking for the cues, the body control that I'm going to need, and trotting around and building, keeping his muscle built up. Trotting builds muscle, loping builds wind. I know this horse has plenty of wind, but I want to maintain his muscle. So usually about the time a horse becomes finished in his training, by finished I mean he knows his job, I'll start backing off on the training and going more into maintenance. Yes. So if a horse falls out with the shoulder, should you go with the one piece? Well, there's a couple of things going on there. If he's falling out with the shoulder, you need to strengthen the outside muscles. I'll do that by some counter trotting, counter bending, counter cantering, and in generally a bit with less joints will help you with that. So in general, the answer is yes, but there's more to it than just a yes or no. Just putting a one-piece bit on it isn't going to fix your problem. Strengthening the muscles will fix your problem, but putting a one-piece bit on a one-piece mouthpiece, that will help you make strengthening those muscles easier to do. Okay. Okay.
He said when I trail ride out alone, my horse is relaxed,
So this is the horse that was in the clinic this last weekend. A pretty forward thoroughbred. And when they're trail riding by themselves, he does really good. But when they come across other horses on the trail, he gets pretty hot and wants to take charge. So I would, from remembering what I saw at the clinic and what you're describing, I would really focus on being his leader all the time, every time you're riding. Riding in the arena, doing obstacles, whatever you're doing, just be his leader. Give him something to do, even something as simple as walking the circles like I do when I first get on. That is the first step in establishing your leadership. And it's not going to go away right away as far as the taking over when you're trail riding, but that's going to help get you in the right direction so that he starts to respect your leadership a little more everywhere. And I remember that horse. In fact, I remember making the comment when when we went to trot and give him a job to do. He actually kind of settled into the job and looked really good. But walking around, he seemed like he was wanting to go do something. He seemed like a horse that really wants to go do something. So I would really just give him something to do and keep engaging him all the time. Really focus on that.
Raven said her parents they were leggings and yellow buttons.
Okay.
Ashley said this is the one when you asked about the bid. She said, so a little more info. He's falling out, just walking down on the property, and if I don't correct it, then he will eventually fall and turn. I know this is a little attitude to working with him.
Yeah, so this is about the horse that's falling out riding. So the way you describe it, it almost sounds like it's not as much that he's falling out, but he's trying to push out to go somewhere else. So again, I would still do the same thing. Do some counter bends. Let's say if I'm walking this circle and he's wanting to go over there. Oh, didn't mean whoa. I'm going to take a hold of him and we're going to counter bend and we're going to push that shoulder back in. Give him something to do. Basically, when I have a horse that's doing what you're describing, every time the horse wants to turn left, I'm going to turn right. Every time he wants to go right, I'm going to go left. If Hank is wanting to take me over here when I'm wanting to circle around over there, if the counter bend didn't fix, then we're going to go over here. I'm going to pull his head around some circles. I'm going to fuss at him. I'm going to make right here not a very fun place to be. And then we're going to go on off someplace else. There's two different ways to work that. And it's almost like when the horse is first poking the shoulder out and you say, go forward, that's your ask. If you go into a counter bend to push the shoulder over and go forward, that's your tell. Letting the horse go over there and then letting over there be a really uncomfortable place to be, that's your demand. That's how you're going to fix that. And if you're consistent, that fixes pretty good and pretty quick as long as you're consistent. But that's the thing with anything. Always use ask, tell, demand. Always be consistent. And just that will help any issues just be easier to handle, easier to manage. So you saw me trotting him around a minute ago, holding him pretty bridled up. Now we're walking around. I'm walking on a loose rein, kind of give him a chance to stretch out a little bit. And in just a minute, I'll gather Hank back up and we'll trot around a little bit more. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. When you tighten the girth on the horse, when you tighten the girth on the horse, it'll go down to her knees. She's always been this way. She has no medical problems. I've had her 20 years and she's always been that way.
So when she tightens the girth on her horse, the horse will go down to her knees. and she's always been that way, has no medical issues. So my guess would be that right from the beginning, the girth has been tightened too hard, too quick, and the horse is just scared about that. And you tighten the girth really hard, really quick, horse is going to push back against that resistance, that tightness coming, and scares a lot of them. It's probably what's happening with yours. And at this point, 20 years, it's as much a habit as anything. You should never tighten the saddle all at one time. When I saddle horses in my wash rack, I tighten the saddle just tight enough so it don't fall off. Usually walking down the barn about halfway down, I'll stop about halfway, tighten it a couple of holes, walk through the gate, tighten a couple of holes, and then I'll check it again before I get on and usually tighten another couple of holes. You should never tighten it all the way at one time. You should always walk the horse and tighten a little bit at a time. And that will eliminate just about all of your girthing issues. Somebody wrapped a belt around you and cinched it up really tight, really quick, you're going to react too. So a little bit at a time. That's probably what's going on with the horse. That's my first guess. Could be something else, but that's my first guess.
Okay, someone wants to know if you can explain the difference between being a leader and being a mom.
Difference between being a leader and being a mom/groom. So I'm not saying never be a mom/groom. You need to do that too. And if you go to the spa and get done whatever people get done at the spa, are you going to want to go to work afterwards? I'm thinking most people are not. So think about what you're asking your horse to do. I can just walk in the circles when I first got on. That's being a leader. When I get done with the horse, then we'll groom, we'll do whatever needs to be done. That's the mom/groom. You've got to be some of both. And you see, he's got a pretty good knot in his mane. I didn't take the time to get it out before. We'll get it out afterwards. The grooming, to me, all the grooming, all the pampering, that is like, look at that like a reward for work well done. The airplane flying over. So all the grooming is like a reward for work well done. And you should do it. I'm not saying don't ever be the mom/groom, but when you get on your horse, you need to be the leader, and you should be able to have a good balance of the two. Too much of either one is not good, but you need to be both, and you need to be both at the right time. Like I said, do the mom/groom after you work, not before you work. Got any other questions? So I got back from my clinic in Massachusetts. I got home about 2:30 this morning. So I'm working on not too much sleep, but we'll make do. My flight up to Massachusetts was pretty bad, but I think all the flights was delayed that day. I was about 4 hours later getting in than what I was supposed to be, just from delays. While I want to take a minute and thank my Patreon supporters. I've actually, for the elite and the master supporters, I'll put your name up right here. I have some more name cards ordered. I ordered those from Vistaprint, I think, and they should be in. It takes like 2 weeks to get them, so they should be in pretty soon. So I want to thank everybody, all the Patreons, for their support. I've got quite a few, 70 something of them total. So it's a big help. Really appreciate it. Oh, Angela, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. That's always helpful. And I try to do my best to answer whatever questions you have right here live. And it really, I appreciate you showing your appreciation for the answers that I give. That's very nice. I do my best to provide as much free information as I can about training horses, but still got to live, still got to eat. So I appreciate all the other support.
Would like for you to take, have you ever lost your confidence riding, and what did you do to overcome that?
Have I ever lost my confidence riding, and what did I do to overcome it? I've had a couple pretty bad spills. In fact, I've done a video talking about the two worst ones. And yeah, I lost my confidence over that. But when you train horses for a living, you can't not get on. You lose your confidence, you got to get right back on. Might not get right back on that horse, but I've got to get back on something. And so yeah, that happens. I think that probably happens with every rider out there, professional riders too. But the thing about professional riders is we have to get back on. So that is pushing us. That's how we make our living. That's how we eat, feed our family. So we don't have any choice. We have to make ourselves. When you're a pleasure rider, a leisure rider, you don't have that forcing you to get back on. So you just have to get back on with willpower. And there's no do this and your confidence comes back and you go back riding. It don't work that way. Your confidence comes back through riding. So you just have to get back on and start riding, and gradually your confidence will come back. It's not going to come back right away. It's really hard to overcome a spill or something happens where you get hurt or almost get hurt. I remember it's been quite a few years ago. I got bucked off of a young horse. Usually when I'm getting bucked off, I know I'm coming off. I try to come off to the right. It's just I have an easier time with that. Came off to the right, rolled over, and I'm laying on my back looking up, and I see the horse's feet right above me, just about to come down on top of me. And I was able to roll out of the way. And that particular situation, it kind of wasn't good for my confidence getting on young horses, but we got to get on. So that's the only way to get your confidence back, I think, is to keep getting back on. It's really hard to do. Sometimes you might have to get on a different horse or ride with somebody to help with your confidence, but there's no miracle, do this and your confidence will be back. You just have to get back in the saddle.
Okay. How do you get the horse to slow his lope, and can it be accomplished in a snaffle bit, or do you need a different?
How do you get a horse to slow his lope, and can it be accomplished in a snaffle bit? I actually have a video on my website about that specifically. And to get a horse to slow his lope, what you need to do is round his back and shorten his stride and lift his shoulders. And that will shorten or slow your horse's lope. So I'm not going to tell you it can't be done in a snaffle bit. It can, but you got to be a really, really good rider to get it done in a snaffle bit. Um, the typical novice rider is not going to make that happen in a snaffle bit. And actually, the typical novice rider, how they ride with the snaffle bit creates that problem as far as poor hand management and poor rein management. So if you have that, you need to work on your hands and your rein management. But to actually fix the problem, you typically need to either be a really good rider with a snaffle bit, or you need a leverage bit to help you lift the shoulders up. That's basically what I'm doing with Hank here. What I'm trying to maintain is his muscles right through here, and the bit that I have on the leverage bit, and it helps me do that. So the other part of it is, even I can get it done with the snaffle, but it's a whole lot more work doing it with the snaffle. So yeah, it can be done, but I don't think that's the best way to get it done. Can and the best way is two different things, and that's not the best way.
How do I keep myself and horse from show nerves? We do find otherwise it manages to settle, but sometimes it's too late for the show nerves.
Okay, how do you help yourself and your horse with show nerves? That is a really good topic. I did a video a long time ago about that. It's about time to do another one. So, a couple of things to help your nerves. One thing, you've just got to keep getting in the arena as much as you can. Go to some cheap shows with some cheap entry fees and just keep getting in the pen. That's the first thing. When you go in the pen and you're nervous, several things happen. I mean, physically, you kind of clamp down and you don't ride your horse. And your horse feels that, so your horse don't respond as good because your communication isn't there. And the other part of that is when you get nervous and your adrenaline comes up, watch the cat don't unplug us again. Cat's coming to visit. Just what we need him to unplug us again. So mentally, what happens when you get nervous and your adrenaline comes up, then you start getting tunnel vision and you lose your hearing. Your hearing is your first sense to totally go away. So by keeping your head looking around, and this goes to your arena awareness, keep track of where you are in the arena. That actually helps bring your adrenaline down. Sticking your head looking straight and really focusing on what's in front of you, that's going to actually let the adrenaline start to take a hold of you. So look around. That's going to help with your adrenaline level. And the other thing is, if there is a song playing on the PA system, keep thinking, can I hear the song? Can I hear the song? Concentrate trying to hear whatever's playing on the PA. And by using your hearing, actively trying to hear, that's going to help you control your adrenaline. One of the things that when a police officer is involved in shootings, a lot of times his adrenaline is up and he don't even remember hearing any gunshots fired. And that's because his adrenaline is up and hearing is the first thing that goes away. So lots of showing, lots of time in the arena. Keep scanning, be aware of where you are in the arena, and listen to the PA system. Those three things, I think, there's other things you can do, but I think that's the three things that help the most.
Is it better to go on the inner trail ride alone or with more experience?
Is it better to go on beginner trail rides alone or what?
With a more experienced horse.
Or with a more experienced horse? So typically, I think a beginner rider on a beginner horse is rarely a good idea. So if you're a beginner rider, you need to be on a horse that has a lot of trail miles, and probably with a partner riding that has a lot of trail experience. You're a lot less likely to get in trouble, and if something does start to come up, that other person normally can help talk you through it before it becomes a big problem. Uh, a beginner rider with a beginner horse going out trail riding by themselves, I don't think it's a good idea. Even like here, we'll take young horses out, and we typically take them by themselves because we want them to be able to ridden by themselves. But we have the experience to handle the different things that would come up when we're out there. And if you saw the video of Phantom, uh, one of his first trail rides, I don't remember which one it was. Robert got in the back with him, and a whole bunch of cattle egrets jumped up and flew off, and it panicked Saber. And Robert took him into the same circles that we do when we first get on established. Oh, Phantom. Uh, Took him into the same circles that we use when we first get on to establish our leadership. And because Robert did that, that helped Phantom understand that what was happening was not a bad thing to listen to the rider. If you would have been a beginner rider and that would have happened, and if you would have panicked and not done anything, then quite possibly the rider would have got hurt and would have created a problem with the horse that would have needed to be fixed because the horse would have lost its confidence. Really important to think about your horse's confidence in everything you do. It's okay for a horse to look at things. It's okay for a horse to worry about things. But you need to be that horse's confidence. You need to feed leadership, feed confidence, and not feed anxiety and worry. I'm going to work his back up just a little bit while we answer any other questions. If you got any questions about how I'm working his back up, ask me. So we're going to stop, back, and give me effort. Back, and give me effort. So I want that pace on just my feet forward and maybe a cluck, a tick, a kiss. I usually kiss. I'm not going to stop and go immediately into the back up. Now I'll ask him for the back. There, that was pretty good. I'll reward him for that. The backup is one of his maneuvers that I know he can score really good on. So I try to practice it. And the other part of that is, like I said, I'm maintaining muscle. The backup is really helpful for using these muscles back here, maintaining those muscles. Didn't really give me the steps. Give him a little pull. Little kind of fan with my legs. I'm not really bumping him. I'm just kind of fanning my legs. So there's several steps to teaching the backup. And the first step that I use is I will use my hands to not let the horse go forward, and then I'll squeeze with my legs. When the horse backs up, then I'll release. So squeeze, not going forward, and release. Squeeze. Notice the direction I'm pulling my hand. I'm lifting it up because I'm not pulling him back. I'm wanting around his body. So from that, I'm teaching him to round his back and get his hip down when he backs. Use his body correctly for the backup. So now let's walk back over here. And then the next step for that is to push my feet forward because we show cow horse pattern, reining pattern cow horse. And that's going to be my stop cue. I always separate my stop from my backup. Now we'll ask him for the back. And then release. I'd like to get that quick step, just feet forward and a smooch. Anybody have any questions about how I'm working the backup there? Okay. How do I work a gait? Yeah, I've got a video of Trigger working the gait. That's probably the best thing is if you watch that video. I break it down into several little pieces. And the biggest thing about working a gait is mentally, you and the horse quit trying to work the gait. What you want to do, instead of working the gait, you want to teach the horse stand here and then reward him for standing there. The gait is just incidental. And then you teach the horse move here and wait. And the gait happens to be in a position. So quit trying to work the gait and work stand here and wait. And the gait will become a lot easier. But if you look in Trigger's playlist, you can find that video. I'm working the gait here at the end of the barn. Any other questions before we close it up? All right, so I think this is a good place to quit for today. I thank everybody for joining in with me, and I thank everybody for all the really good questions and interactions. That always makes a good experience for everybody to learn. So this is Hank. I'll have a playlist up here of his videos. Until next time, thank you for watching.